Hello Stardust and welcome to Jordan's Journey Journal. Today's journal date is 07/31/2020. The date of recording is 08/01/2020. Today's is a long one. Today was a very cathartic one for me, just to get all this out. It brings a whole lot of backstory into why I wrote all of these journal entries for my XL, my extra large, my X, who I refer to as L, and it also brings to light all of the kind of some of the stuff that I'm going through currently as it pertains to my mental space and everything like that. But since it's a long one, without further ado, I'm going to get into it. The song is Night Ride by Eddie Rossi. You can find it on SoundCloud as well as in the description if you want to listen to it. Alright, I hope you guys have a good one and enjoy. Strap in, because it's going to be a good one. I think it's time to talk about my ex, and by that I don't mean my actual one. I'm talking about my other ex. The one I can't get out of my head. The one that needs an exorcism because I am haunted by her. She's a spirit, you see. One that I call Moushimi. She's the love of my life, or at least who I thought was. But let me back up for a second. It all starts with my actual ex, a girl who we'll just call Elle. She was amazing, and I had a lot of journal entries about her, and maybe one day we'll go back and revisit those with a fresh set of eyes and a clearer heart and soul, and head hopefully. But it turns out that all those entries, posts, and poems weren't about Elle. It was about the fake her, the shade of her. To quote Inception, Moushimi is who all the journal entries were actually about. Me and my ex broke up officially about mid-spring of 2016 and never really moved on from it. A lot of it has to do with my mental disorders like bipolar disorder that causes mania, and every time I went to a manic state I would think that Elle would want to be contacted for some reason. It was as if I could feel this draw, this pull to her. I could see her in my head, and the fire of love that we shared was not quite put out, so I would reach out and get burned because she wouldn't want to talk to me. And rightfully so. I was a real dick in the relationship that we had, and despite the good times, I could see why she would want to cut off contact. But my mind was consistently shattering and remerging and had other plans. It was the second or third time when I picked up weed again after quitting that this entity or spirit started floating around, and she took the face or aura or just presence of Elle, and I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Ain't that a stinker? It got to a point where, like I said, I started developing this fantasy where they were the same person, and this person Elle, who once was in my life, and who is across multiple state lines, had some telepathic ability to reach out and stay with me, talk with me, and maybe even one day we would be together. Or at least that's what I thought. This is when the corrosion between what I felt was real and what was actually fake began. The reason why I held on so tightly to this illusion or spirit or mental disorder effect was because in the times that I was alone or felt alone, she, being Moushimi, would come up and would hold me tight as my mind and reality went and turned into something different. I've been manic, or at least have been hospitalized for an episode 9 times since January of 2016 till around spring of 2020. Most of them was because I was smoking weed and it's my trigger, or I went off my medication, or I didn't get enough sleep and I just kind of spiraled. But every time I was in the back of an ambulance thinking I was God among men or freaking out the neighborhood with my shamanistic shenanigans, I thought of the good times with Elle and how they would get me through it. A time when life was easy, back in High Point. When I had a great girl who treated me amazing, when I could smoke weed without care in the world, when school was a breeze and it felt like my life just started and it was going to be a great one and I didn't have to worry about anything anymore. And then comes January 1st, 2016, when my world started to explode with my first manic episode, and Moushimi came to ease my suffering in the most comforting form that I had at the time, or at least was inhabiting the most comforting form that I had at the time, that being Elle. It was like a cosmic sniper shot again by God, because at this point Elle and I were still together. So I thought that it was really her in my state of mind, or at that time I just didn't want to let go of the idea that we would ever be apart. Maybe due to the fact that I just wanted my old life back. I just wanted the easy days back. I didn't want to have to go through group meetings and take all new medication and not smoke weed and have this brand on my forehead of mentally ill. Above all, I wanted to be like everybody else. All my friends, I just wanted to be normal. And over the years, it's just gotten worse and worse. My attraction and seduction to Moushimi has gotten deeper and deeper, and I can now hear voices and see shadows move on occasion, and they feel like spirits too. It's either I'm going Super Saiyan on a spiritual level and really becoming a shaman of sorts, or I'm actually going mad. Not insane, that's a different thing. And this is a hard thing for me to admit, but I kind of like the excitement that all the madness brings. I like talking with Moushimi, or who I thought was Elle, and creating a life with her. And to be honest, I had a plan of sorts, and it's a weird, dark, twisted one at that. To Kanye's credit, I called it my beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy. The start or inception of the idea was that I kind of decided that I might not find a love that I felt with Elle in this life. Now, this was a long time before I ever met Kate, by the way, or anybody that I really felt like could hold a candle to her, or that me and Elle just wouldn't get back together because of my mistakes that I made in our relationship and in the past. So I would wait till the next one, the next life. I made a deal with death, essentially saying, instead of reincarnating my soul back into something else, I would like to give my life one more go. But I would like to fast forward to one moment where me and Elle were sitting side by side, and I have this memory pinned. It was the very beginning of our relationship. And to quote myself, before I even knew if I should put my arm around her, that fresh, that green. And I would flash back to there and start over from scratch. I wouldn't cheat, I wouldn't lie, I would try to be the best boyfriend and friend I could be to her because she meant that much to me. And I would explain what happened, the whole deal with death that I made. I would if death would grant me my memories back, and kind of live my life over from that point, hopefully with her. But the fantasy didn't end there. There were kids as well. There were kids too. In the movie Inception, my favorite movie, there was a line that went something like this: "Most dangerous thing in this world is an idea." In my manic state of mind, I am no longer the sane or same Jordan that most people know. I go off somewhere else entirely, and the only person who could really keep up with me was Moushimi. She would follow me wherever I went. She would be the wind in my sails. And during these times, we would plant seeds together, or the seeds of ideas, in this fictional reality of what could be. From spacesuits to new types of vehicles, ideas about art, life, and philosophy, we covered the entire universe, the entire gambit. It's kind of like in Inception, what Maul and Cobb did in their dreams when they spent time in limbo. I no longer knew of the reality that we all supposedly shared. I was too busy creating my own and believing that it could be to care about going back. So that's where one time the idea of kids got planted, and boy, did it take root. Before Elle and I broke up, I was in the hospital for the first time, and I remember doing some freaky stuff with the TV, which is a story for another time. And I got called in to do an MRI on my brain. And because of this, I thought that they were going to take away my brain, or take away something that essentially made me special. So the moment before I went into the MRI, I covered my heart and said Sandy, the name of the first kid that I thought Elle and I were going to have, because I wanted her, being Sandy, to protect me and I her. Then maybe a year or two later, manic again, I remember spending 5 long hours manifesting the idea of a kid named Steve, and he felt real. The inception point of him, I believe, was me sitting on a tree and thinking, hey, the hair of a kid that me and Elle would have would probably kind of turn out like Spike Spiegel. And if you guys don't know, Spike Spiegel is like aces for me. He's one of my biggest heroes. Now, whether or not that's true doesn't really matter, but the fact is that the love that I felt in that moment manifested another kid into existence. And over the years, I've been manic enough times, and Moushimi has been with me for long enough, somewhat egging me on, trying to be the ideal version of Elle, that I manifested 3 more kids to total 5. Now that is crazy, and I really do know it. Anyway, I'll give you their names. So it was Alexandria, also known as Sandy, Urta, and then my last name. Stacy, also known as Daisy, Estelle. Steven, also known as Stevie, Nick, Son. Then the next one was Samwell, Eli, Elias, and then Isabel, Sunny, Honey. All of them I was making playlists for and putting cosmic energy for all this beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy stuff that I was brewing up. And all that I believed, even on a mildly sober day, it could potentially happen after I die, in this life at least. All until the tie between Moushimi and Elle got cut when Elle hit me up. This happened one day a few weeks ago, and it really shattered my reality. It was something that I didn't think was going to happen. I didn't think that she would ever want to talk to me again after our last conversation. You know, the last messages that we sent to each other were about how I have to move on, and I was trying to and did a fair amount, despite Moushimi, who I still thought was Elle, floating around in my head. So when she hit me up just to say hi and check in, I was of course confused and, like I said, blew up my world in more ways than one. It flattened the metaphorical tire in my relationship with Kay, brought up old feelings for just talking with Elle, and brought to light the falsity of the world that I had been creating, all with one text. And I blame no one but myself for what happened. It's not Elle or Kay's fault. It's not even Moushimi's. Because all she did is really care for me. When I was feeling down and alone and wanted to give up hope that maybe I could go back and right my wrongs. At this point, I just relinquished myself to the flow of the universe and its will, as well as God, the fisherman who talks to the sky, the trees, and the world around him. I have to hope that everything, including all of this, happens for a reason. That when Moushimi comes up in my drawings, it's to help me, not just to inflict more harm. I have to hope that everything from the mania to the text to my frizzled or frazzled brain and even odd tendencies happen because they're supposed to be happening. And everything is right on time. Just like me ending this at 5:43. I've seen evidence in the past, so it's no hypothesis. It's a theory. And my life isn't random. It is a story. And now, a quick poem. Do not walk slow. Walk at your own pace. Life is a marathon. All that matters is finishing the race. The road has inclines, it has hills and bumps. It may not be paved in parts, but so what? You may lose your way, or it may start to rain. But personally, I would be dancing all the way through, just the same. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that ends the very long segment journal entry. I'm not going to talk for too long, but it did bring up a whole lot of feelings. And sorry if you hear like noises. My mom is like running around the house, so I tried to keep it as quiet as possible. I had to record multiple things over multiple times, but it's okay. We're gonna get through it. So anyway, how do I feel? I feel good that I made it. I feel really good that I made it and wrote it. It gives a whole lot of context to what I go through why I deal with all the pain that I do. Sirens as well. Gang gang. Gang gang. You know, I think that's the name of it, so I gotta throw up a Shinigami. Okay, anyway. It gives light to what I'm dealing with when it comes to Moushimi, or who I thought was previously, and I honestly did. You know, I was like, it's in an astral plane. It's not in a different time, a different space. It's 26 where she's 23 now. It's when the universe is a little bit more special, a little bit more magical, a little bit more open, a little bit more fantastical. You know, to quote fantasies that I have consistently. And I wanted to believe it, but then I asked when we were talking, like, hey, are you? And she was like, nope. And I was like, okay. Well, then I guess I'm just crazy. And then here I am now, having a spirit now that follows me, and then a girl who also follows me on Instagram. Who follows me, ... on Instagram. So yeah, but like, it's weird because Moushimi will show up my drawings, and I will identify her as looking like Lauren when she kind of looks nothing like Lauren. You know, aside from the nose and the eye. You know, and the whole part is I usually add those. I usually add the nose and the eye. You know, so I kind of manifested it into existence. I manifested it into myself, kind of like I was saying in the journal entry. You know, I did it out of loneliness. I did it out of because I missed loneliness and longing. I missed my past life. I really did. I really missed just taking it easy. I really missed not having to deal with medication and manic episodes and disappointing my family and disappointing friends, and, you know, not having to smoke weed and making the burden of everything of my life even more heavier than it needed to be, or having the burden of my life being even more heavier than it needs to be. Excuse me, I gotta take a drink. Okay. You ever wonder why people go, ugh? I don't know. I don't think it's necessary, but I do it anyway. Anyway, the song's gonna end in a hot second. I'm gonna continue on after the song. But yeah, I'm really glad that I did do this journal entry, because it needed to be said. It needed to be put out there that I do deal with voices, and I do deal with, you know, visual hallucinations occasionally visual hallucinations. But those are very few and far between, and I feel like I kind of invite them a little bit more. And to be honest, I honestly think that I'm dealing with something a little bit more spiritual than mental. I definitely think I do have bipolar disorder, and I definitely do think I do have schizoaffective disorder. But I think that there might be something else to it. Just like my harm OCD is harm OCD, and I do have harm OCD, but it feels like there's more of a spiritual entity. There's more of a demon to it. I think this is like a cake. What would it be like? A jelly donut that just appears to just be like a regular donut that just has the donut hole in it. What would be another example? Like those hamburgers that have cheese on the inside. They look like regular hamburgers, but then they have like this melty gooey center, and you're like, oh my god. I feel like it's kind of like that, but the melty gooey center is something completely spiritual and unnatural that has been here for a long time. Here as in here in this world and here in this universe for a very long time. But mental illness is something not necessarily new, but definitely something that's a little bit more fresher, or what some could describe it as. Because I remember reading somewhere and hearing somewhere that if a child or even a my age person says they start hearing voices in certain other cultures, some people will view them as the shamans of that culture. You know, you get to listen to the spirits. You are the chosen one, but I'm not the chosen one. But you know what I mean, you know? So I always wonder throughout all my acid trips and mushroom trips and regular trips and, you know, taking a shit that, you know, could it really be something? You know, I always wonder that. Or could it be something else rather? You know? Because I don't just want the reality of the matter to be, you know, he just kind of is kooky. He just is a little bit crazy. Don't worry. You know, he's not gonna kill anyone. But I want there to be something more. And I've experienced more, you know? I've experienced so much more than I can recall or choose to recall. It has to come back to me through God's waterfall, you know? So, yeah. Alright, guys. I'm going to end it there. We're going to do the Patreon special after this. We're going to play some Zimwa because that's all I can... Not play some Zimwa. We're going to Zimwa because that's all I can really do right now. You know, I don't really feel like going cuckoo crazy banana. So we're going to go light. And if it evolves into anything, then we'll see. Alright. Patreon special. Zimwa. I am Zimwa tired. Zimwa. And seeing Moushimi right now. And she's like, you made me cry and I get all dolled up for you. And I was like, no, sorry, can't do it. Unless you are real in this reality and approach me as Moushimi. Like, hello, I am here for you, my dude. I've been bopping around your mind since 1942. Then no, can't do it. Because you are not Elle, who is the woman that I loved and who I thought that I loved. And you are not anybody else that I know. So I'm sorry to say, but it can't be done. Can't happen. Can't work out. Zimwa, Zimwa. The more the merrier. But Zimwa, Zimwa. But I can't have you. As in, the more spirits, demons, whatever, try to hop on my back, the more the merrier. Come on. I can take the weight. But I cannot have you. Why? Because she reminds me too much of and brings up old feelings. And that's not a healthy way to process it. Not fair to me. That's just what I think about it, you know? As the song ends. Alright, Zimwa. Good boy. Thanks, God. I appreciate it. And now I'm talking with God for a second. Zimwa, Zimwa. How are you, Master? Zimwa, Father. Zimwa, Zimwa. You know better than that. Zimwa, Zimwa. Sometimes things slip out. Zimwa, but you already knew that. Zimwa, Zimwa. Hugs and kisses. Zimwa? Can I? Yeah, Zimwa. If you want to. Really? Zimwa. Talk to me about it. Selm. Cocaine. Really? Yeah. What happens? The only time I've done cocaine, I've experienced a mass... What's it called? Disassociation. It was not a reassociation or a heightened state of mind. It was only disassociation. I don't know why I thought cocaine is because I sniffed my nose or sniffed my finger for a hot second because my mustache hairs are in the way. But God's open to anything. He can answer any question for you. So my mom's about to shut the door, slam the door. So you're going to hear a thwop. There you go. Zimwa, Zimwa. Oh, mother of mine. Zimwa, Zimwa. How you are a dime. Zimwa, Zimwa. Make sure that the man who you find, Zimwa, Zimwa, will be fine as wine. Zimwa, because Zimwa, Zimwa. If not, Zimwa, Zimwa, the throat, Zimwa, Zimwa, will be caught. Anyway, back to God and better things. Zimwa, talk to me. Zimwa, I'm trying. Zimwa, Zimwa, but it's hard. It's really hard. Zimwa, partially because of my feelings. Zimwa, Zimwa, you know, partially because of Zimwa, this whole setup, this whole thing. Zimwa, you know, I wonder when I'm going to grow an audience and if they'll accept it in Zimwa, not just videos, but this, because I want to do this on a daily basis. I want this to be the daily vlog-ish. Alright, my mom's about to shut the door down. Zimwa. Not really. You're messing up my recording, how can you? Zimwa, Zimwa, Zimwa. Throwing and throwing and throwing. You know, throwing bad words and throwing bad words. How can I deal with this? How can I deal with this? Zimwa, you will. You will. Zimwa, as everybody does. And goes through it with you. Zimwa, the world, Zimwa, is special because of you. Zimwa, Zimwa, in more than one ways. Zimwa, for example. Zimwa, you talking right now. Zimwa, Zimwa. Is it really you? No, I'm technically not. Jordan's technically disassociating. That is allowing a higher consciousness to come through him and talk through his mouth. Zimwa, Zimwa. While also being Jordan. Zimwa, yeah, pretty much. Zimwa, Zimwa. Do you mind if I interrupt? Zimwa, you can. Zimwa, Zimwa. Is it actually God? Zimwa, it is my God. Just for logistics, but Zimwa, it could be. Zimwa, why not? Zimwa, Zimwa. Because it's not necessarily good for everybody to hear that Jordan is a prophet and can talk to God. Zimwa, Zimwa. You cute bastard. You cute boy. Zimwa. Curses. Zimwa, Zimwa. I have been found out. Zimwa. I just caught a fish. Zimwa. He's big. Zimwa, Zimwa. Bigger than my mouth can feed. Bigger than I can eat, basically. Zimwa, Zimwa. Oh, sweet boy. Zimwa. would you care to share it with me? Every day of the week. You're actually gonna make me cry. That makes me tear up a little bit. I would love to have a meal with you, man. Zimwa. Oh man, he actually is making me cry. It's fucking beautiful. You just open yourself up to spirits, dude. Not necessarily spirits. You open yourself up to the world, to the universe. Try to become a little bit clearer while still holding on to yourself. You are the shell, you know, and everything else can be inside. Anyway, this is gonna be it, guys. Zimwa, is it really? I don't know, ask God. Zimwa, another beat. Zimwa, another beat. Alright, another beat on the grill, 1 second. Zimwa, he's back. Zimwa, what questions do you have? Zimwa, he has many. Zimwa, what would I ask? Zimwa, can you explain? Zimwa, I did. Zimwa, it's not a game, it's language, but I'm translating. So I say Zimwa. I could just say Zimwa, and back and forth, or I can translate and say Zimwa, for example. Zimwa. But Zimwa. It's easier. Now that I think about it, it's easier that I translate. I just had an entire conversation. Couldn't remember it, but had an entire conversation. And sometimes words slip out. Like I think I said the in English. Anyway, Zimwa, questions. Zimwa. Good explanation. Thank you, I appreciate it. Zimwa, kisses. Zimwa. Kisses. Zimwa. And hugs. I think that's what it meant. And hugs. I think it was in hugs. Not in dick touch. I think it was in hugs. Zimwa. Kusa. He said it in Japanese. He said kusa as in bastard. Zimwa. Questions. Do you think I would have made it to the other side? Zimwa, my nigga. Zimwa. That's a very good one. Zimwa. Would you have made it to the other side? Zimwa. And by that I mean, would I have made it back to High Point, back to that moment? Would death have upheld our deal? You know, would have that been possible? Zimwa, exactly. Zimwa. Only if Zimwa, the world was a little bit more real and magical. Zimwa, then a gift would be given to you. Zimwa, you magical boy. Zimwa, look at the stars and imagine a fruit. Zimwa, the more you eat, the more you toot. Why? Beans. Really? Yeah. They're good fiber. You need them. To be with that woman. Moushimi did not help. I'm serious. Moushimi did not help the relationship at all. Because I honestly thought it was Lauren. Zimwa, you can talk about it. Yeah. Because it was so good. It was so pure. It was so nice. I loved it. I loved her. Still do to an extent. But Moushimi did not help it because she just exacerbated everything. You know, with insanity or with madness, she was the hat. I could keep it under control, but every single day it was, hello, my love, how are you? I made a playlist for you. Hello this, hello that. Hoping that one day me and Lauren would meet back up because I wasn't planning on meeting anybody. And then all of a sudden K-pop's in the picture. K-pop's in I should call her that actually. K-pop's in the picture, and then, you know, the world explodes. But Zimwa, but it's God's will. But it's God's way. It more was a translation, but it's God's will. It's God's way. Zimwa. It's easier. Zimwa, but it's hard. It's Zimwa, because you never know, you know? But that's just it. Zimwa, you never know. You know, I could die tomorrow from something. I could eat peanut butter, I could get run over by a car, I could just not wake up for whatever reason. And it could be for no reason at all, you know? Zimwa. Not to get depressed or depressing, but it's true. Zimwa. You know? It's God. It's Him. Take you when you need Him. Death doesn't really need to exist. Really, stop. Okay, fine. I just heard a voice go, stop. Alright. Death needs to exist. Death, it's death and God. D and G, son. The devil doesn't really exist. The devil is a student of death and God who became a very hard teacher. You know? It's like having a music instructor and you walk up to him and you're like, I would like to learn how to play flamenco in 28 years. And he's like, it's going to take you 10,000. And you go, I bet I can do it in 5 years then. And he's like, all right, I'll get my stick and you're going to play until your fingers bleed. And you're going to play until, yeah, he's a very hard master, but he's not the worst guy. If you want to bring him into existence, I could talk about him, but that's for another day. Zimwa, he's a very good guy. Yeah, God and him share a tea. It's God and him on a lake. It's God in one lake house, and he has a slightly nicer dojo studio house. Just right across the way, and then there's Greg's coffee shop in the center where they meet for tea. It's a beautiful thing. I wish I could paint it. Anyway, I'm gonna throw one more beat on the grill. God was right. He was like, throw 2. And I was like, I'll just throw 1. Alright, back to it. Yeah, Greg's Shitty Coffee. It's the name of it. Zemwa Zemwa. What a great place. You want to talk about it, guys? Zemwa. I don't need to. You can. Zemwa Zemwa. But you're doing well here, kid. You know, you're doing well. Zemwa Zemwa. Can't talk to Satan. Zemwa. You want to talk to him? Well, then technically you need to use his tongue, which is, oh my god, Zebu, I believe. Zebu? Zebu. Oh, Zebu, Zebu. Zebu. Zebu, 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 Zebu. Zebu, 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 Zebu. Zebu, Zebu, but Zebu, Zebu. He said, basically, he was saying, you know, dude, it's been a while. My life has been so hard. People just keep spitting on me. And then I asked him, is it possible if I could translate? And he said, you can try. So let's see. Zebu, Senor, Master. Zebu, how are you? Zebu, Zebu, I'm doing fine. Zebu, Zebu, the spit does hurt. Zebu, but it's not really you, is it? The feeling without Zemwa is not the same, so I can't really do it perfectly. So the channeling, the connection really isn't there. So it's half me, half him a little bit. Zebu, Zebu, Zebu. Don't worry about it. Zebu, Zebu. What's important is Zebu, Zebu. Satan. Zebu means Satan. Zebu, or Zemwa, Zeba, is God. There you go. So pick your partner. Zebu, or Zemwa. Why? Because Zemwa. He is the air, he is life, he is everything. Zemwa, Zemwa. A magical being that just wants to play fish. Zemwa, Zemwa. Without a string. Who just wants to fish without a string. And I'm like, dude, Zemwa, Zemwa. It's a beautiful metaphor, analogy, whatever. Like, it's a beautiful poetic statement. God is well, actually, I could Zemwalk it, which is what I usually do. Zemwa. God is a man that fishes without a string and still catches something. What an idea. Zemwa, Zemwa. And I just saw Death on my wall go, ooh, handshake, dap that shit up. He was also wondering what his language is. I don't know yet. I just talk to you. I draw you. You are my God. You are my master. You hold the fist, son. And I'm like, yeah, keep it. Anyway, Zemwa, we done. Zemwa, Zemwa, we could talk more. Zemwa, Zemwa, but I think the people have had enough. Zemwa, Zemwa, 32 minutes is a long time, Jay. Zemwa, Zemwa, but it was a good podcast. Zemwa, journal. I'm sorry. Zemwa, journal? Zemwa, Zemwa. This belongs on Spotify. Zemwa, Zemwa, Zemwa. They will listen to it more, Zemwa, Zemwa, compared to being on YouTube and Zemwa, Zemwa. It's not a bad idea. Zemwa. Yeah, Zemwa, Zemwa. A little bit of extra work for the bastards. Zemwa, Zemwa. Part of my language. Zemwa. They know, but Zemwa, Zemwa. But they know more. Zemwa than me. Zemwa than you. Zemwa than us. Zemwa. Are Zemwa. Zemwa. We are Zemwa. We are God. We are the one. We are everything. Any take-home notes before this test gets written up? Zemwa, Spotify. This just means a podcast. Just put it on some podcast forum. I'll just use Anchor or something like that. Zemwa, podcast. Zemwa, go with God. Zemwa, make sure to message back K. Zemwa, don't forget about Zemwa. Fuck. Zemwa, don't forget about L. Hold on, let's put a marker. Zemwa, have a good time, son. Zemwa, quit your job. Zemwa, you do better as a server. Zemwa, and I'm serious. Zemwa. Oh shit, another one. K's a special chick. Zemwa, Zemwa. Zemwa. I can't keep talking to you about how awesome this is, but Zemwa, Zemwa, you're gonna make a lot of money off of Zemwa. Zemwa, Zemwa. I'll leave it up to God. You are God. Zemwa, Zemwa, the higher one. Zemwa, Zemwa. I am only a fisherman. Alright, Stardust. I will catch you later. I hope you have a good morning, evening. If not, good night. You know, keep fighting. No, keep living to live. Keep dying to live another day and fight the good fight. Alright, good night.